Hey guys, how's it going? Jam here, and welcome to another episode of my Track Build Battles series. As you can tell by the title, this week I'm replicating one of the most iconic car chases in film and TV history. Well, replicating it as such, but we're using the two cars involved from the Bullitt car chase, and that is the 1969 pairing of the Dodge Charger and the Ford Mustang. As with the film, it was the Charger that was running away, so it can be the Charger to set the first time, and then we'll see if the Mustang can chase it down later on in the episode. Before I get onto the car, I just want to mention, I know it's been a long time since the last video. It's becoming quite a common theme in this series, really, but at least you haven't gone completely content-free from me. That's quite a mouthful. Since the last episode, it's just been a little bit of a hiatus while I was getting stuck into starting my Project Cars 2 career mode, which will probably be continuing on the channel for the next part of my Formula Rookie season at least. Anyway, though, back to this episode that we're talking about, the Dodge Charger. As per always, we'll be talking about how it stacks up on paper. 6.7 for speed, Forza reckons, which is, again, as always, pretty irrelevant. It'll do about 154 miles an hour before turning into turn 1, which is not the fastest we've seen, but it's certainly up there. It's well above average. I normally say 150 miles an hour is doing well, so by exceeding that by 4 miles an hour is really rather impressive. Handling is a far more relevant stat, and 5.8 for this car, coupled with 5.9 braking, is certainly decent. And when you factor in that it's also got 8.7 acceleration, on paper this car should be very good. And it was a muscle car that went top, well, it was two muscle cars, two Chevy Novas, that went first and second in the previous episode. So this could be a recipe for topping the table, and that's exactly why I went ahead and did this episode, because I fancy putting some more muscle cars to the test after the success of the Novas. Interesting thing about this car, you may notice that it doesn't have a front splitter, and that's because you can put one on. The option I always use is the Forza Aero, which is adjustable. I never actually adjust it, but that's what it should be. This car does have an option for a Forza front splitter, but it's not adjustable, and I have no idea why. The upgrade I have got on the front is a different front aero upgrade, or front bumper upgrade I think it's called, and all that seems to do is change the grille slightly from stock, but apparently that gives it better handling and braking than the front splitter does, which is all very, very odd. The last few things to mention about this car: 580 horsepower or thereabouts, weighs about 3,000 pounds. It's got 275 front tyres and 345s on the rear, so pretty massive. Now I'm going to try and keep this episode short, so I won't waffle on for another lap, and we'll move straight onto the Mustang, where I'll catch up with you in just a sec. So now we move on to the Mustang for the second part of this video. I kept making puns about chasing the other car down in the first part of the episode, so I'll keep my film references to a minimum for this bit of the video, and just simply say that this car is very, very similar to the Charger in quite a few areas. We'll start off just by talking about the similarities, and that's 3 of the 4 Forza stats are completely identical to the Charger. It's got the same 5.8 handling, the same 5.9 braking, and the same 8.7 acceleration. So, like the Charger, on paper, this could be a very, very quick car. The only difference is the top speed stat, the Mustang falling 0.2 short of the Charger, with only 6.5 compared to the Charger's 6.7. Now, I normally say that the top speed stats aren't really that relevant. We're not getting anywhere near the car's top speeds. If you're doing 150 into turn 1, you're doing pretty well. Well, the Charger, as I've already mentioned, at 154, which was really impressive, but not quite the fastest overall. I think the Nova still has that. I think about 156, I think. I might have to go back and check. The Mustang still managed 151 miles an hour into turn 1, which is still above average. It's still pretty decent, but it's just not quite as quick as the Charger. Now, that's probably largely because it doesn't have as much power. It's got 490 horsepower and 460 foot-pounds of torque. That's about a 90 horsepower deficit and about 120 foot-pounds of torque deficit. The engines are actually built up slightly differently as well, with the Charger having identical power and torque figures and the Mustang falling short on the torque. That's probably largely because the Charger was completely stock engine and just upgraded parts, whereas the Mustang I added on a supercharger in the aftermarket section. Now, the power and torque deficit partially is made up by the fact that this car is lighter, nearly 200 pounds so. With the Charger weighing in at about 3,000 pounds, the Mustang only weighs 2,800, and it's still got the same width tyres, 275s on the front and 345s on the rear, which are very nice and big. And you can also see that I do have a proper front splitter, which gets me into the big difference of these cars, and that is the cornering. They just felt different in the corners, which is very vague, so let me try and be a little bit more specific. Largely due to the fact that this car has a front splitter, probably due to the fact that it's also quite a bit lighter, and the fact that it's just physical sizes smaller. This car felt more nimble, more agile, maybe a bit more twitchy, but also more oversteery. I felt I could turn into the corners with a lot more responsiveness in the Mustang, but it was more likely to let go through the corners with the rear end. So that normally means that it would have the potential to go quicker through the corners, but it's just harder to extract that pace out of it. So that is it, pretty much it for this part of the video. The summary, I think I've actually kept on time relatively well in this episode. So yeah, that's it for this part of the video, and I'll catch up with you when the two cars go head to head to see which fastest lap was faster. So let's now take a look at each of the car's fastest laps. I'm trying a slightly different layout with the videos. The video clips in this episode. I think the players for each car should be slightly bigger. If there's any issues or anything, let me know in the comments. Or if you prefer it, let me know in the comments. Anyway, as per usual, pretty even round the first corner. There's not a huge amount of track to be differentiating the cars. Mustang had a bit of a lock-up into turn 1, but they're both pretty neat and tidy round turn 2. The Charger taking a bit more of the apex curb, and the Mustang getting a little bit more squirrel in the exit, but both of them pretty composed. Both of them taking quite a bit of liberties with the track limits on the entry to the first dead nut, and using exit curb on the second dead nut as well. Most cars do that. Flying through the quick right hand and then braking hard into the very tight hairpin. Got to try and stay as tight as you can and get a decent exit. The Charger kicking up some tyre smoke as they accelerate towards the alternate chicane. You've got to be very neat and tidy and precise around here, which should favour the Mustang, but the Charger seems to have got a pretty good run as well. They're still neck and neck. If anything, I think the Charger might be slightly ahead at this point, judging by the cuts between different camera shots. Just one corner to go now, around the very long, almost double-cornered spoon hairpin. The Charger running slightly wide on the way in, dropping a wheel over the outside curb. And on the exit, it's going to be a drag to the line because they're pretty much neck and neck at the moment. Who's going to get there first? They're going to cross the line. It's going to be very close is what it's going to be. So, yeah. We'll have a look at the Mustang's time first. And you can see it did a 1 minute 26.648, which puts it into third position overall. And only just ahead of the Nissan Silvia, less than half a tenth separating the pair of them. That does now mean we've got three Mustangs, oh sorry, it's not three Mustangs, three muscle cars in a row. And the Charger, well, that breaks into the same area. It goes a tenth and a bit quicker than the Mustang into third place, so the Mustang wasn't there for very long, although it was actually the Charger that went first, so the Mustang was technically never there in the first place. I should have put these other two the way around. Never mind, we'll ignore that. So yes, the top of the table is very much dominated by muscle cars at the moment, but the Silvia got close. So, is there anything else that's going to beat it? Let's find out in the next episode. Until then, goodbye.